Hi, I'm Eddie Jordan. This is just a short intro to introduce you to a new little video that we've done to show you behind the scenes at Jordan. Welcome and enjoy.
Jordan Grand Prix, good morning. I'll put you through.
This is the first site that greets anybody coming to visit Jordan Grand Prix, our reception area here at our headquarters at Silverstone. Opened in December 1991, and over the next hour I'm going to be showing you around here, and you'll be very interested, I'm sure, to see some of the great things we've got to show you here at Jordan Grand Prix. Jordan Grand Prix has come a long way in 10 years, since a hopeful Eddie Jordan founded his fledgling team at Silverstone Circuit back in 1990.
Sorry, no filming here.
Hello? Are you here?
Well, I suppose on reflection 1 year later, it's always nice to be able to come back and say, well, we achieved what we had set out to do. Because I think always at the beginning you set a target that you almost feel is unattainable. And when it is attained, then there is a sense of satisfaction. In the recent history of Jordan, we've gone from being 6th to 5th, 4th, and last year 3rd. We're going to try to be 2nd. That would be a target, but it would be a dream. It's going to be hard to achieve that. But I don't know whether we're ready yet to take on the great might of McLaren or Ferrari. They have a lot of experience, a lot of championships under their belt. But one thing is for sure, the motivation inside Jordan and the way we feel about the ongoing situation, both with the team, with the drivers, with the engineering, with the commercial side, we're making very good progress.
Well, I think that we are going to be up again and we're going to gain in speed. I think it's hard to say how much we really gain compared to McLaren or Ferrari, but we definitely make a step forward.
The arrival of any new Jordan car is an exciting time for the team. In late January, after 6 months of intensive design, manufacturing and development, the new car is ready for testing. The EJ10 is perhaps the team's most important car to date, following in the footsteps of the double race-winning 199. Design work under technical director Mike Gascoigne had commenced back in July. His team of design engineers worked almost non-stop in their efforts to ensure that the new car is the challenger the team, drivers and sponsors are looking for. For Heinz-Harald, tasked with giving the EJ10 its shakedown test, it's a nervous time. And for Eddie Jordan, the arrival of any new car bearing his name is an important day.
Basically, haven't had any big rule changes for the 2000 season. There's some small rule changes regarding safety, but nothing in the main regulations. So it's an evolution, and in terms of wind tunnel testing, we just kept going with the same sort of concept from the 199. But we think it's quite a large step forward. We know that certainly from the aerodynamic results. So we think we understand what makes the car go quickly. We've improved the car a lot over the last 18 months. The 199 got more and more competitive compared to the top two teams throughout the season. And this is quite a large step forward in all those areas that we understand. So I don't think there's anything revolutionary on it. The laws of physics are the laws of physics. And if you press down harder on the tyres and lower the centre of gravity height and lower friction, the car goes quicker. And we've done all that. We think we've made quite a large step on it, but that's not by doing anything revolutionary, it's by doing all the basics very well.
Having had a Jordan 191 and a 199, and it was probably time for change, and we are always open to change, things that make a little difference, however slight, and I think it was a very opportune time. It was a decision that the team made to call it EJ10, mainly because it's our 10th anniversary. We've completed 9 years. In motor racing terms, it's probably a short time. In a lifetime, it feels like a lifetime because so many things have happened during that time.
Well, I'm the technical director of Jordan Grand Prix, so ultimately I'm responsible for all the technical aspects of the company. That includes all the research and design and main design functions. But I have a lot of senior engineers working for me that take the individual design responsibility. My main two guys, joint chief designers, John McQuillan and Mark Smith, they head up the composite section and mechanical design section, although there's heads of those sections underneath them. They've both been at Jordan for a long time. Mark was one of the original three who designed the first car. They look after all the day-to-day aspects of running the design office, and they have teams of about 20 designers working under them.
At Jordan Grand Prix, the work of a designer is most definitely not a 9-to-5 job.
The guys in the drawing office, you know, they're in at 8 o'clock and they're probably leaving at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening, and that's for a sort of 3 or 4 month period to get us over the hump. And basically, when we work on the cars at the circuit, or the same here or in the wind tunnel, you know, the golden rule is you don't leave until the job's done. So yes, there is a fairly large time commitment from the guys. With 3D CAD systems and all of that. There's a lot of information the guys have to put into the CAD system, and it requires a lot of hard work.
We used to draw on drawing boards, which was we draw in 2 dimensions. We then went to simple CAD systems, which were basically electronic drawing boards, if you like. And now we've gone to a full 3D CAD system where we fully model every component and we can assemble them together and really. We used to always produce a large mock-up of the car each year, which would sit downstairs and sort of be made out of wood and that. Nowadays we don't need to because we have an electronic mock-up. You know, the model represents the real part, and we can see much better for fits and tolerances and interferences. So it requires a lot more input from the designer, but it shortens all our production times and times to build the car because things fit better, and when they fit better they're more reliable, and so it's a huge step forward for us.
One would have to say, since Mike has come here, it's like being a fairy tale for Mike and for us. The people he has put together here, and really, I suppose, in many respects, Trevor Foster, who's one of these people who has been in the background, who's been fundamental in the acceleration of the process within success within Jordan. And I think what Trevor has done is allowed Mike to get on and concentrate on the technical side of the car, while Trevor has been able to put all of the equipment and all of the facilities available for Mike's people to be able to give us what we believe is a car that we, for the first time, can honestly say that we have a chance now to challenge for the championship.
One of the things that Jordan Grand Prix is famous for is its atmosphere. But a lot of things have changed over the past 10 years. Let me introduce you to someone who's been here right from the beginning, Andy Stevenson.
We're struggling to hold on to the atmosphere, I'd say. Obviously, there's a lot more people here now. I think we're up to nearly 250 people. So we are losing the family touch a little bit. But when we go away racing, it's still very similar because you're still working in a relatively small group.
Obviously, it's changed a bit now that we're 230 or 240 or whatever it is now. It's a lot different to when I started, and there was 43 of us over in the small unit in the beginning of '91. But it still is a sort of a family sort of team. I mean, even if you're a new bloke and if you've got an idea about something on the car because something's broken or you see something, no one's going to have it bite your head off if you say, well, what about if we did this or something? You know, you can actually have an input. Whereas if you work for McLaren or someone like that, you're 272 and you do 272's job and that's it. We don't want any other input from you.
There has always been a family atmosphere in the team. The stresses of the past 10 years have changed some of that, but each individual knows that he or she has a role to play.
For European races especially, we normally come back to work on the Tuesday after the race, which involves us stripping the whole car down completely to a bare chassis. The chassis then goes away to be painted, and we'll start servicing and maintaining all the other parts of the car. The gearbox will go in sub-assembly. That'll be reworked. All the suspensions reworked again. The fuel cell's completely overhauled. All the wiring looms are taken out of the car and checked, and then we put them back together again. This turnaround normally takes us about 3 or 4 days, basically depending on how much time we've got. If we've only got 3 days, it's got to be done in 3 days. Depending on how much work you've got to do, then it depends how long your days are. Sometimes they're 8-hour days, sometimes they're 24-hour days.
So a glamorous job then? Not really.
Oh, Well, I'm still looking for the glamour. There isn't, as far as I'm concerned, there isn't any glamour. But what is in it is there's a lot of satisfaction, especially when you succeed. Obviously, when things don't go so well, then you don't get much from the job. But when it's successful and when you get a good race result, then there's a hell of a lot of satisfaction in the job, that's what makes it worthwhile to me.
Well, I mean, you always try and share the glory with the team. I mean, when we won the race, I mean, the first thing EJ did when he got back here on the Monday was come in here, and he actually walked out onto this platform with all of the team down there, you know, and held the trophy at the top of his head, and you know, just to make sure the factory felt part of winning that race.
A new season and a new face at Jordan. Jarno Trulli joining Heinz-Harald Frentzen to form a formidable partnership. The former world karting champion has had a terrific career, finishing on the podium for the Prost team at Nürburgring last season and bringing to Jordan youth and vitality at an important time in the team's history.
Well, I think the most important thing is to work well with Heinz and with the team, try to progress together, to grow up, try to catch the first two top team like McLaren and Ferrari. No, I just think that probably on the other side I have to get all the other points missed last season. So for sure I have a lot to improve. But I think I will find myself very well in this team, and it's very important because together we can work very well.
I believe that the two drivers will be very close to each other. I wouldn't want to say at this stage, although I've seen some articles in magazines, what people believe that so many races that Heinz will outqualify Jarno and vice versa.
Well, I know that he's really hungry for winning races. He's going to be a strong competitor for me, and I'm looking forward to have him in our team and compete against each other.
We clearly do not operate a 1 and 2 driver. That was made quite emphatic when a lot of journalists, particularly British journalists, asked us why Damon wasn't number 1. It's never been our philosophy, and as long as I can see into the future, it's never going to be. I think it's disruptive. So when both drivers feel they are standing on exactly the same equipment, they have an equal chance. Therefore, psychologically, which I believe plays such an important role in any sport or any business, but particularly motor racing, where you feel perhaps somewhat isolated as a driver, I just hope that it's a close call, that they're able to push each other to the ultimate, because there is nothing quite like internal competition, but good competition, not disruptive competition.
It's very important because I spent 2 seasons in a French team where it was difficult with a French driver inside the team, because the French driver wanted always to be the number 1. I just want to work well, with no pressure, with especially no fighting inside the team, which is very important to progress.
He's like Heinz. He enjoys what he's doing, but he's serious as well, so he's exactly the same as Heinz, so I think he's going to fit in perfectly. Heinz fitted in so well last year because it's his character. He likes having a good laugh. You know, he's still serious, but he enjoys what he does, and we're the same. We like a good laugh, but we're still serious.
Not all our development work takes place here at Silverstone. 6 miles away, the village of Brackley plays home to Jordan's all-important wind tunnel.
We use the wind tunnel to simulate the car moving along a road. Because we're blowing air over the model rather than the car going along a road, we have to have a rolling road, which is going at the same speed as the air, because obviously that's what's really happening out on the track. We've got a 40% scale model. We run it at about 40 metres a second. We've got hundreds of sensors in the model, pressure tappings, front and rear wings, underbody diffusers. We measure the forces on the car, the downforce, the drag. We measure the front and rear wing forces individually. We measure flow through the radiators, because obviously the cooling of the car is very important. So for each run, we take at each ride height, and we do 10 ride heights, we take probably sort of 300 bits of data. And of course they're all analysed by the aerodynamicists for each configuration, and we're testing typically 30-40 configurations a day. So it generates a huge amount of data. The model we have to support to hold it in the wind tunnel, and also to change its attitude, and that's on a strut here which has got a balance in it and everything, so we measure the main loads on the car. The wheels we can either run mounted onto the car or mounted off them. Here they're mounted off on the side, and the reason we do that is we can run strain gauges in the mount, so we can look at the wheel drag, and also we can run pressure tappings in the wheel, and we can measure wheel lift, because there's a lift effect from a wheel, which obviously reduces the total amount of downforce. If we run the wheels on the model, it's much easier for them to steer the wheels, and you can't measure the wheel drag separately, but you measure the total drag of the car. Well, this is actually the business end of the wind tunnel, the action end. This is the fan that's driving the air around the wind tunnel. In fact, the air has come from the working section of the wind tunnel, through a corner, through another corner behind the fan, and then the fan powers it down here. And down this end we've got a chiller which actually keeps the air at a constant temperature, because it gets quite hot because of all the energy that the fan's putting into it. Through another corner, then another corner, into the settling chamber, in front of the working section, through the contraction where it's accelerated up, and then into the working section and over the model.
Colour-coded for each season, the wind tunnel model is a piece of precision engineering, costing over £100,000 each to manufacture. They're produced by a team of dedicated staff working out of the wind tunnel at Brackley, using very sophisticated techniques and state-of-the-art materials. Carbon fibre, aluminium, these are exact replicas of the Grand Prix cars.
It's not state-of-the-art anymore, but it's a very good workman-like tunnel. But certainly in the next few years Jordan has to look to develop its next tunnel, which will be larger and a better facility. And also, you know, if you can do work in two tunnels, you do twice as much work, and that's certainly a project we've got underway at Jordan.
As from Silverstone, the way in which we operate the fuel flap has changed slightly, because we're not allowed to have any electronic devices on the car which aid the driver. So the operation of the fuel flap is still controlled by a switch on the steering wheel here, which we now call the pit procedure button, which when the driver pushes this button, it'll give him a readout on his dashboard as to the speed that he's going, so he can keep the car to the 60 or 80 kilometres, whatever the speed limit is in the pit lane at the time. And also pneumatically opens the fuel flap like this, which then allows the fuel guy to deliver the fuel and allows the driver to carry on racing. As he exits the pit lane, he pushes the button once more and the fuel flap closes.
Getting the cars to the races is a full-time job for a team of truckies based at Silverstone. The Scania trucks, state-of-the-art machinery, hit the road for the Grand Prix season, not just taking the cars to the races, of course, but also to the all-important test sessions in between. It's an amazing piece of logistics to get 3 cars and over 30 tonnes of equipment to each Grand Prix on time, on schedule, weekend in, weekend out. It's not a job for the faint-hearted. The truckies have the task of not only loading the cars and all the equipment, but making sure that when they get to the other side of the channel and get to their destination, everything's unloaded and ready for the team to go racing.
My title, for what it's worth, is Chief Truckie. There's 10 of us in the department, 4 on the test team and 6 on the race team, like 2 in each truck. In total we've got 5 trucks, got 4 Arctics and a Rigid. 2 Arctics and a Rigid go to the races, and we've got the 2 other Arctics go testing. Honda also have 2 trucks, 1 for a test, 1 for a race. Each trailer's worth sort of like £300,000 a piece. The tracked units are £100,000 plus, but we've got a sponsorship deal with Scania, so we're getting free, which is quite nice. Everybody has a secondary job, and we've got 2 guys that do tyres. Sort of come Thursday morning, they take their truck head off and put their tyre head on. You know, we take 40 sets of rims to a race, and you see 40 sets of wheels and tyres lined up. There's a fair bit of work there. All the kit's down to us. We get there, you have an empty garage, and what you see on the television, we settle that up. Computers, wiring, electronics, you know, you name it, air. When the guys get there Thursday morning and start work on the cars, it's like they were working in the factory. You know, they've got everything available. And then Sunday night, strip it all down. It takes us 2 days to put up, 3.5 hours to trucks are rolling after the race. When I used to do tyres, I can help them, help the fuel guys, whatever. Or if it just involves running a brush round, it all needs doing. You know, we could go to any team in the pit lane, even the foreign teams, and can I borrow a couple of these, you know, we'll return them next race and things like that. And it, you know, it works both ways. And there's a lot more that goes on than people would probably imagine. You know, all very serious and all the politics on the television. But when you get actually down to like the level of the people actually working and doing a job, you know, most people here have worked somewhere else, and a mate of mine works there, or another friend of mine works there. So you always know somebody down there you can go and ask them more stuff. We have a good laugh. I mean, you sort of work hard and play hard. But as an atmosphere, as the team goes, it's up and down the pit lane. People are always saying, "Oh, have you got any jobs going?" You know, it seems a nice place to work. But it all stems from the boss. I mean, the way he runs it. We get stopped by the police, which, you know, they must have a big thing on the front. Says, "Please stop me, give away free T-shirts on." But we don't. But you take them around the back, and they get their camera out and take some photos of the car. Just open the little door in the back, and yeah, they stop the traffic and let you out. So that's good. As its bonuses driving a yellow one, as against just any other colour one.
The problem that the aerodynamics causes with overtaking is that through a high-speed corner, when one car's following another, it can generate up to 30% less downforce than it would do so without the presence of the car in front. This means when it's trying to follow a car through the corner, it can't go as quickly, so it drops back from the car in front. Now on the straight, the effect of following the car is a positive one. You reduce the drag. You don't need downforce down the straight, but you reduce the drag of the car, so that when you're close up behind another car, you can tow up behind him with less drag and overtake. The problem is, the corner you've just gone through, you've gone too far back to be able to do that and slipstream effectively. So it makes overtaking at the end of the straight very difficult.
The car is, of course, the centre of attention at Jordan, at all the Grand Prix. And, of course, the race team get all the glory of travelling around the world. But behind the scenes, it's the test team, the group of people who do nothing but take these cars to midweek tests, to test and develop them and make it competitive for the next Grand Prix, that do an awful lot of the behind-the-scenes work.
My role is chief engineer. In that I'm responsible for the engineering of the cars while they're running. We have the two race engineers that solely work on the setup of the car, but I tend to oversee them and then oversee the test team, which is really the major role of most of my time, is responsible for the test team. And the testing of the cars, the race team go off to their race on a Thursday afternoon. While they're away, test cars being prepared, ready, so race weekend finishes on a Sunday evening. Test team start on Monday morning, and normally we have a situation where between each race we have 3 days of testing, normally Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday following the Grand Prix. With that we have a completely separate team. We test approximately 75 days a year testing, but when you're away for 3-day tests, you're away from Monday to Friday. So it's a full week away from home, and the hours are very early mornings until normally early hours of the morning the following day. Sometimes you rarely go home the same day, to be honest.
With separate test and race teams, it's down to a few senior race engineers to ensure continuity.
The only overlay we do have is that the race engineers come along with their driver occasionally to cover their own driver. The relationship between driver and engineer is very important. Most of the time they need the on-track feel of what's going on. We do tests certainly at times where they'll just read the report and go by the report of what's been tested and what's happened, and then come the race weekend, they're happy just to take that data and stick it on the car. But most of the time they need to be at the track to get that feel. We have two types of people really on the test team. We have the young guys that are coming up Formula 3, and we train them into our way of how the job should be done as a feeder for the race team. And then we have the other type of people that have been racing for many years and they want to do something different testing. Although the pressures of testing are large with long hours, it's not quite so much pressure as a Sunday afternoon pit stop, to be fair to the guys. Everybody is pushing for the same goal. They all want to win, no question, otherwise they wouldn't be here. And in some ways it's harder in a team like Jordan because of some of the resources compared with a McLaren or a Ferrari. So we have less resources and we still want to win as much as they do for sure, so we have to work harder, I think, in some ways. It's frustrating that that we can't just go out and buy things that they've got, but it does give you more enjoyment when you actually succeed, definitely.
The intensive testing programme is not just about making the car go as fast as possible, but to see how far the 3,000 components can be pushed.
We have to make everything reliable. We put thousands of kilometres on parts sometimes before the race team will even see it. If parts fail after 50 kilometres, 200 kilometres, then we know it's no good for a race. We've got to put 1,000 kilometres on before we're happy that something's going to be good for a race situation, and that takes time.
On fire! Here's stable shot!
Ultimately, we're all here to win races on a Sunday afternoon. That's what it's all about. But you win it before Sunday. You only lose it on a Sunday afternoon. To win a race, all the work is done beforehand.
First off, well, how we actually arrived at this seat with Heinz is we start with just the bare cockpit. We have some infills that we put in the side, and we literally start just with a huge plastic bag and a couple of tins of foam. When you mix these two foams together, they actually start expanding together at quite a high rate, and then when they go off, it turns into a hard seat. And from that, we'll then take a mould, which we'll make the carbon seat from. The actual foam itself, once you've mixed it, you've basically got 2 or 3 minutes to get the driver in the car and where you want him, and after that, you're stuck. If it doesn't work, you take it out and throw it away.
Ooh, lots. Come on. Yeah.
At a human level, the seat fitting is all important. The driver arriving for his first seat fitting of the season will often meet his mechanics and engineers for the first time, spending a few vital hours in each other's company, making the driver feel safe and comfortable in the new Formula One car for the new season. The driver even will take on 1 or 2 delicate tasks himself, just to make sure that he's feeling thoroughly safe and comfortable once he's in the car. With thousands of miles of testing in front of him, the driver has to be sure that he moulds himself into the car, not the other way around. The team often has to design a new car for the new season without even knowing the identity of the driver lineup. So it's all important that in those first few weeks of the season, the driver and his people get it right. And one of these Jordan Formula One cars is going around the track somewhere in the world. Every movement of the suspension and the chassis is being recorded by the car's onboard telemetry system and being relayed not only to the team in the pit lane, but back here to our headquarters at Silverstone. Here we have a 7-poster rig upon which is sitting yet another Formula One car, and it's replaying those self-same movements of suspension and chassis so that the engineers at the factory can see exactly what's happening to their car, whether it's racing in Montreal, in Melbourne or in Monza.
Well, a 7-post rig is a rig where we have 4 large hydraulic actuators under each wheel, plus 3 simulating the aerodynamic loads, and basically we replay track data. So we simulate how the car moves over the bumps around a track. What it means is we can sweep through a whole range of suspension settings and damper settings to try and optimise the car's performance on the track, to try and reduce load fluctuation and ride height variation as the car moves around the track. And obviously, when we go to a race weekend on the first day, we have 2 one-hour sessions. The track's changing. It might be a track we've never been to before. The drivers are trying to get a balance. They're trying to learn the track. You're operating with different fuel loads. You've got a very restricted amount of time to do some things. Whereas when we get that data back here, the guys run overnight. They're doing hundreds of laps, running through all the suspension settings, all the damper settings to try and optimise performance. So it gives us some very clear directions on how to get the most out of the car, which we just wouldn't be able to do over a race weekend.
The team may be one of the smallest in Formula One, with just over 200 staff and subcontracting a large percentage of its manufacturing to a group of suppliers around the UK and abroad. But the really crucial components continue to be developed in-house.
This is the composite department. In this area we do all the trimming, the fitting, the laminating. We've got all the ovens here, the pre-preg oven, the carbon stores, all the finished carbon components are kept down here. And there's a team of about 15 guys, 10 in the trimming and fitting shop, about 6 or 7 in the laminating shop. And what happens here is all the raw components, raw carbon parts or the pre-preg carbon parts they make, it all comes through our department, and from us we have to finish it off, do any modifications to it, and then from us goes to the race team or to the R&D department. And basically we're here to serve like the drawing office, the race shop, the test team as well. Typical day, the cars come back usually a Tuesday night or a Wednesday morning, depending if it's European or international circuit. And then we have like a short turnaround, which is usually a week. So the cars, they come in the factory, the truckies unload everything. In the morning, the mechanics come in, they strip the cars down, take everything off the car, carbon components, all their electronic stuff. But for us, what we do, we liaise with the race team, drawing office and the race team engineer. Okay, what we got here then are the 4 race floors from Brazil. What happens here is mechanics take the floors off the cars, we take them down here to our department, we look them over, make sure there's no damage to them. If there's any damage, we do the repairs, just carbon fibre, wet lay repairs. If it's more serious, pre-preg repairs. We go over them just to make sure there's no other problems like fittings are pulled out or any major cracking, which would mean the floor would be scrapped off. We'd have to get a new floor, which we've got spare, put through the system, issue to the race team. Old floors would go like on the back shelf, which would be like a setup floor for us or on a rig car. What we've got here then is our front wing assembly setting jig. Any front wing assembly we make, what we do, we first of all check it all off on this jig. We put the nose, pillars, wing end plates on, make sure it's all legal. And the way we make sure it's to the legal requirement is get our special spacer block, run it underneath, and we know it's legal, won't get disqualified after a race. Our car's designed 51.5mm for legality, so I don't know how McLaren got their car disqualified, because ours fits there, no problem. I think it's hilarious.
Well, this is the hydraulic department in here, so there's 4 of us, 2 racing, 1 testing, 1 factory base. So Wayne and I do all the racing, so he looks after one car and look out after the other. In case there's a problem, we both help each other out. Touch wood, never is a problem. We do all the hydraulic systems and all the dampers in here. Once it settles down, I mean, like a normal night, we knock off at about 9, 10 o'clock, but I mean, testing, we go through to 2, 3 o'clock, so it's a bit hard then.
Talk about patrioticity and that, we always have a bit of a dig between the Aussies and the Poms and that, and this department especially, and this company, it's a real international team, so we're well represented. I mean, Heinz, Japanese connection through Honda, Eddie, and the Australians, of course, but, I mean, there's the cricket score, isn't there? Rugby league, I mean, it's got to be known, hasn't it, you know? So we score our points. And I mean, that's the way it is.
Arguably one of the most important areas of the factory is the sub-assembly and transmission workshop, where major assemblies such as the suspension uprights, drive shafts and gearboxes are carefully built, ready for the rigours of the next Grand Prix somewhere in the world.
There's 7 of us total in the gearbox shop here. There's 2 of us go racing and 2 will go testing. When people are testing, the race team are back, and when the race team are away, test team are in here. So there's probably 5 to 6 people in here working in between sort of each race and test. Typically it'll take a couple of days to what we call turn the box around, which would be to strip it, get it all cleaned, get it all inspected, and then to rebuild it again.
The transmission is the most complex mechanical component produced by the team, having to transfer 800 horsepower from the Mugen Honda engine to the rear wheels.
I think everyone handles pressure in different ways. The actual build and construction of the box involves quite a few different people. It's initially built here and then goes to the circuit, and we'll change certain parts of the circuit. The parts we change to the circuit are the more simpler parts to change, like the ratios and whatever. So as soon as the car has actually done a few laps and the ratios are correct and they're all working, then you feel, well, sort of happier, and the longer it goes on. So when the car finishes the race, you know it's all over. So there is amount of stress, yeah. You've got to get it right. You don't want to be the one everyone's pointing the finger at, for sure.
These days, every major Formula One team has a dedicated marketing department, and Jordan is no different. Here we look after the day-to-day needs of all our sponsors, the media, our fans, and the schedule for our drivers for all the promotions they're doing. So it's a busy place.
Mean and moody. If you take your hand away, actually, that's good.
The press office and the marketing department puts this extra workload on them outside their racing environment of the car, but it's all part and parcel of modern Formula One. They understand it's what they need to do to keep the sponsors happy, keep the sponsors on board, and get the stories across to the press. Relationships with the drivers and Eddie are key, and it's very important to build a friendship with them and a good degree of trust. They need to see you there as an ally.
More gullible those Barkley boys than I thought they were.
They won't use any of this. They use a crappy shot anyway.
They will not, otherwise we'll kill them.
I'm done. You charge for breakages. Thank you so much.
They need to feel that you're there to help them out if they get into a sticky situation. They need to be able to trust you that your judgment as to which journalist they should be speaking to, which interviews they should be doing, is sound judgment. They're looking for you for that kind of steer. It's a very close relationship, and you build that relationship and build the trust, and it develops over the years.
The Jordan team likes winning on and off the track, and the launch of the new car, new driver lineup and new sponsors is a real highlight. For the past 3 years, Jordan has led the way in terms of team launches. Few can match it for glitz, glamour and media appeal.
At Jordan, we've always done very big launches in the last few years, particularly with Benson and Hedges as our partner. Theatres work well because they allow a lot of space for these 900 to 1,000 guests to literally be seated. We like to entertain the media and sponsors as well as just have an event. Timing of everything is very, very difficult because obviously the engineers and mechanics have built the new chassis, and we only have one new chassis, and we're putting all this emphasis on them as well to bring that car and have it for media use. So it's everyone wanting this car for all sorts of different purposes. With a lot of support from the team, we managed to get it into our wind tunnel, which has an area of space where we can set up like a photography studio. set up the car with the drivers, bring along Mike Gascoigne as well as technical director to show him and the car that he and his team have designed. And we take a whole load of photography which we then produce into photography packs for the media as well as press packs, so that all the information they need on the car is available for them on launch day. It's a very, very busy day. We start at 6 in the morning on the breakfast programmes, and the 4 to 5 hours of launch and TV and radio and journalism goes by in what feels like half an hour. It just passes so quickly because you just go throughout the day.
Another launch, another new season, but after the success of 1999, you've managed to put together an even more formidable lineup. Perhaps you give us a small resume of your thoughts about the past, the coming year, and the future, and even Formula One as well.
How long have we got? Coming to somewhere like here, Theatre Royal, and the show that's currently on here, Dancing on Dangerous Ground, I had to reflect somewhat, because here was such a symbolic statement that reflected very clearly the early years of Jordan. We were on first name terms with the local bailiffs in Northampton and Mr. Savage, the friendly VAT inspector. But these things have moved on, and it is appropriate that Jordan should be in this position. Almost 1,000 people here, it's quite remarkable from the early days. In that first launch, I should remind you that we had 11 people. We had no sponsor and we had no driver. We looked a disaster. It prompted one journalist that particular weekend in his review of that particular launch, and he said, "Why do they bother?" And that has never left my mind, because it was something that inspires me and creates that passion that is inside Jordan, and is something that's very powerful and constructive. Jabby Comeback, I'm sorry, but you were the one who said it, and I thank you for it, because it was a very powerful thing at that particular time. I'm sure you're fed up looking at this strange guy here, Mr. Honda. What do you think? Look, he has given to us since 1988, 1990. We won every year in that year. We won each year, and we won the championship in Formula 3000. Then 8 years later, we came back together to join again in Formula 1. And our first year we won, in our second year we won. And respectively, we finished 4th and 3rd. I think we're on the way up, and I think we're going to continue to mount that ladder. And who says that the sequence of 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd shouldn't be broken, except I've never really liked being second. And he says we're going to do it together. Ladies and gentlemen, what a fantastic supporter, great friend, Hirotoshi Honda and Mugen Honda. They've been absolutely brilliant to Jordan, and I couldn't speak highly enough about them. We have been enormously lucky to get here. You have been fantastic in terms of all of the sponsors in particular. But there is one out there that I have to make particular notice to, because, again, it's a story. We were, as a result of Heinz, we won an award for the car, best car in Germany, as voted by certain viewers on a television station. I went to pick up the award, and on the way back, we'd had a phone call. And during that time, I was trying to make an 8:30 flight, and it was about 7:10. I said, "Look, please, forget it. I've had a really hard day. Can we do it some other time?" And he said, no, it'll take 15 minutes. I met this particular person for 15 minutes at 7:30, fully expecting 10, 15 minutes, cordial discussion, and catch the plane. Well past midnight, I'm still there. I'm saying to myself, pinching myself, is this guy real, or am I a complete lunatic? Because the way he's talking and the way I feel, we're like as if we're brothers. And this was something spontaneous you can't possibly imagine. The next day we did artwork. The day after, he came to Silverstone to meet us. I gave him a present of a yellow tie, and he gave me a present of a yellow bicycle. The bicycle is a different story, which I won't bore you with, but it's a different story. And what we demonstrated to each other, we were following our respective yellow dreams. And that's what we're trying to do at Jordan. Yellow is our colour. In Deutsche Post and Dr. Suki's, you have been an absolute treasure. I don't know where I found you from, but you are darlings. 5 days, 20 hours from first meeting him, through all of that corporate rigmarole as you can imagine. How he achieved to have a finalised signed contract within that period, I think is a world record. He is a joy to work with. He is really welcome to the team. He is a major asset, and we, with them and all of the other major sponsors, we wish to show to Jordan that we have the expertise to go and win the championship. I want to just shut up now because I think I've spoken for far too long. But I can't thank you all enough for coming. It's a particular joy for us, the Jordan family, the Jordan team, and everything that is Jordan. Just keep chasing that yellow dream. Thank you so much.
And now for some typically Irish entertainment, leading to the unveiling of the new Benson & Hedges Jordan Mugen Honda EJ10. Please welcome on stage the company from the current show performing here at the Theatre Royal, Dancing on Dangerous Ground.
While Eddie was busy dancing an Irish jig, little did he know that his team had plotted with BBC Television to have presenter Michael Aspel say the words that team boss most feared. Eddie Jordan, this is your life.
I'm sorry to interrupt the spectacle, but it's a great day for the Irish, and I am here indeed to say, Eddie Jordan, this is your life.
It went very well this year. The fear was that having done two great launches in 98 and 99, how could we keep that momentum going? And this is your life situation really made it for us.
Responsible is instantly sacked.
It was a nerve-wracking thing to work on and try and keep that under wraps with everything else that was going on. And it was a fantastic event for everyone, really, really good surprise. And for Eddie especially, I think that made the day for him.
Ready to take you when you're ready.
Thank you.
Okay? You can say...
You all knew, didn't you, you nasty people?
You can say what you like, because we'll edit it out.
Yes,
so.
okay.
After the hectic build-up to the launch of the new car at the end of January, the team embarks upon a month-long, very busy testing and development schedule prior to the commencement of another incredibly hectic Formula One World Championship season.
Well, this year was particularly difficult because of the testing schedule. We had a few problems in testing, so by the time we come to build Heinz's race car, it was very late in the day. We basically had 4 days to complete the whole thing from start to finish before it was flown out to Australia.
Before Melbourne, we did a shakedown on I think it was the Wednesday, of the 2 race cars. One of them was a brand new car, one was a car that had just come back from Jerez testing, and we knew we had Wednesday to shake the cars down, and we knew the freight had to go Wednesday night. So, you work as hard as you can all weekend, all Monday till about midnight, come to work Tuesday morning, and obviously we had to get the car finished to run on Wednesday. So you just keep working, and it ended up being all night, and we finished the cars about 10:30, 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning, did the shakedown, got the cars back here about 5 o'clock, and then you couldn't just say, right, well, that's the shakedown done, let's go home, because obviously it's got a plane to catch. So we ended up working till about midnight, getting everything packed up to go to Australia.
That was quite a tough build. I think we worked 42 hours non-stop just before it was sent off on the plane. But they're not always that bad. Sometimes they can be. You just got to be prepared for it, really.
After 10 years, Jordan's team management has a well-oiled machine in place when it comes to the logistics of freighting 3 cars and 30 tonnes of equipment to the 17 Grand Prix which comprise the Formula One World Championship.
We take everything we go to a European race with, because you need absolutely everything you take. So we're taking everything except the trailers themselves. Everything has to come out the trailers and into box, so we don't skimp on anything really. Tonnage-wise, we're looking round about an average of 21,000 kilos, maybe a bit more, a bit over. We won't know until we tally up the final box at the end of the night or early in the morning. That's excluding engines, and that'd be a rough value of around about $5 million, I guess. We always take three complete cars to all races. Maybe first race is an exception, but we try to take 3 of everything, every component in the car. Well, Moog and Honda actually take the engines, and they'd probably take, excluding the ones which are already in the cars, they would take up to 10 engines per race as spares. Wings, you're probably looking minimum of 3 sets, sometimes up to 6, especially front wings, because they're quite vulnerable. Rears, somewhere between 6 and 8, but there's all different configurations to carry as well, so there's quite a range of different types of wings you have to take. Cars travel fairly complete as a rolling chassis, so we remove the nose, the rear wing and mounting structure, and we fit what we call like a protective front cone, a nose cone, and a steel framework that bolts onto the back of the gearbox like a bumper bar, a wooden floor with lift-up sides to protect the side of the car. It's all covered by a tailor-made cover with a lifting strap attached to the roll hoop and the back of the rear frame, and that's it basically. The pack-up itself is quite a lengthy process, which involves getting the packing boxes out of storage, which they've been in storage since the last Grand Prix last year. So we usually get them out about a week, 10 days in advance, then open them up and then start packing actually, start packing components we won't need this week. On average would take about 60, so that's quite a few, plus there'll be some additional ones later on after we leave. Well, there's certain guys are responsible for packing some areas of the boxes. They're very rarely anything gets left behind, so they all know pretty much what's got to go. It's a fairly standard procedure now, and the spares man himself, he knows he's got to take 3 of everything, so he just checks everything on his list, and somebody does the consumables, somebody does the tyres, the rims, the tyre blankets, somebody does pit equipment, wheel guns, somebody does the garage setup stuff, so it's pretty well coordinated and very rarely anything gets left behind. It is a bit of a headache for me, not that I actually do the packing itself, but I'm responsible for doing all the freight lists, itemise everything in each box, and we have to fill in probably around about a 70-page list to Formula One travel, and so they can check every box off if need be with customs or this end or the other end. And I have to produce all those documents before the plane leaves.
Jordan may race on only 17 Sundays per year, but for the 200 plus staff in Silverstone and Brackley, the task of putting the drivers on the track requires passion and commitment. 24 hours, 365 days a year.
First thing we tell them, if they're interested in the job, is, are you flexible? You know, do you mind working long hours or unsociable days or coming in like drop of a hat? And a lot of the guys are pretty good about that. I mean, it can get quite difficult to run the build when you're really under it 7 days a week.
Eddie's quite a good character to work for as well, you know. His attitude sort of flows down through the team, you know. Your Ron Dennis and people like that, you know, they're different characters, and it shows, you know. You look in their garage at night and everyone's miserable.
I'd say we're still one of the teams that enjoys it the most out of everybody.
A lot of people want to have my job, certainly, but that may be because they don't know everything it entails. It's a lot of fun, but you have to love it, and it's a way of life.
It's a very competitive team, but in saying that, a very friendly team. Everybody is pushing for the same goal. They all want to win, no question, otherwise they wouldn't be here.
I've now got the team and such good people running the team that it allows me a little time to be able to play music, things that are important to me, go and watch horses or whatever it is. But I would still say most of my time is spent here, there's no doubt about that. I get my total buzz out of racing, but I do need alternative attractions. I like other sports, of course, whether it be golf, football, rugby, whatever. I like horses, and I play around a little bit there. And, of course, music is a big passion. Those things are very unlikely to change because you will spend 18 hours every day and forget things that are important, like family, like other activities. But my job is to never really move too far away from what my dream is, and that is to pursue and bring this team to be world champions in as soon as possible time frame that we can.